Welcome back, Hammers. If you love West Ham news and updates, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what you think. Let's get started. Finally, it's Friday, my friends. And that means two things. We've survived another week, and we're one step closer to enjoying the Premier League again. The break is over, the weekend void. Without football is gone. And West Ham are back in action in one of those matches. That stir every supporter's heart, Tottenham at the London Stadium, late afternoon, an atmosphere that doesn't need any invitation to boil. It's a big match, a fierce rivalry, the kind of night that separates casual followers from those who truly live the club. And let's be honest, half and half scarves don't fit here. In a derby, the stands have an owner, and tomorrow our home must make some real noise. But before we talk about the pitch and the ball, there's a subject that insists on taking space in pub conversations on social media and even in the corridors of the stadium itself. Yet another legal battle involving West Ham and the administrators of the London Stadium, now under the authority of the Greater London Authority. If you've been following, you know this isn't the first time. Since the club moved here, the concession agreement signed back in 2013 has constantly been tested. And this time the friction point is women's football. Here's how it works. The contract allows West Ham to play up to 25 competitive matches per season at the London Stadium for an annual fee. Back in 2016, this was around £2.5 million. By 2025, the projection already points to £4.5 million. In practice, each game costs roughly £180,000. It's expensive. So expensive that the club often gives up friendlies, charity events, and even editions of the Betway Cup when the European schedule consumes part of those 25 dates. The numbers rule, and the calculator doesn't forgive. So what is West Ham asking now? Simple to use one of those 25 dates to host a women's team match in the Barclays Women's Super League at the London Stadium. No privilege, no discount, no loophole. The club offered to pay exactly the same fee as for a men's game, even knowing that the operating costs of a WSL fixture are lower and that the crowd is generally smaller. It's a symbolic and important step, putting the Hammers women in the spotlight, turning the match into a family event, opening the big house so more people can wear claret and blue with pride. But the stadium's administration said no. They argued that the concession agreement doesn't apply to the women's team and that therefore a separate arrangement would be needed, with a charge more than double the men's fee. In their view, the current per-match figure is already subsidized by London taxpayers, and it wouldn't be fair to expand that subsidy for an event that on paper would generate less revenue. The London Mayor's office backed the stance, and so the stage is set for another chapter in court. On West Ham's side, the response was firm. The intention to bring the Women's Super League to the London Stadium remains a priority. There's no demand for VIP treatment, and the offer stands to pay the same as the men's team. More than that, the club's legal department argues that the 2013 contract refers to competitive matches without specifying gender. And let's be honest, precedent matters. Almost every legal battle against the stadium's administration has ended with victory for the Hammers, some even with refunds plus interest and legal costs. While pen and gavel try to decide the fate of a single match, we look back at an uncomfortable fact in 10 years of London Stadium. Only one official West Ham women's match has been played. There, one for a club that prides itself on its working class roots, that speaks of inclusion and community. This feels like a missed opportunity. It's neither necessary nor healthy to move the entire women's season to the main stadium. The WSL schedule often clashes with the men's, and logistics would be tough. But reserving 2 or 3 dates a year, turning them into celebrations, opening the gates for kids' families, for those who want to live West Ham beyond the men's 90 minutes, that's an investment in identity, in the future, and in the fan base. And the discussion runs into the old sensitive issue, not being the owners of our own home. Moving to an Olympic arena, modernized the spectacle, put more than 6,000 voices under the same roof, and took the West Ham brand to another level. But it also brought dependencies, clauses, limits, and a constant feeling that we need permission to live out things that at other clubs are decided in a simple internal meeting. If the stadium were ours, how many times would we have already staged women's matches, youth games, testimonials for Legends community events? How many times would we have used the pitch to strengthen Hammer culture instead of doing the mass every time the gates are mentioned? The good news, and here comes back the smell of fresh cut grass, is that tomorrow there's football. There's Tottenham, there's the London Stadium pulsing. And when the team walk out, all of this turns into background noise. It's time to turn noise into energy, to press, to fight for every ball as if it were the last. And who knows, to use this big night to remind the entire city that West Ham is more than a contract. It's fans, it's history, it's the future. Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the Claret and Blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. The debate about the stadium may seem distant to those who just want to watch the ball roll, but it touches on something deeper: belonging. West Ham was born as a working-class club from East London. Upton Park was more than concrete, and stands as a symbol of identity. When the club moved to the London Stadium in 2016, the promise was modernity, increased capacity, and international projection. And partly that came true today. The Hammers are regulars in European competitions, average attendance has grown, and revenue has taken a leap. But the trade-off was giving up absolute control of their own home. Every decision must go through negotiations, bureaucracy, and often legal disputes that consume time, energy, and patience. The women's team case exposes this wound. It makes no sense for an official Women's Super League match to be treated as something extra outside the package of competitive games foreseen in the contract. Even more so when the club itself is willing to pay the same fee as a men's game. The justification that the real cost would be higher and that the taxpayer subsidy should not be extended sounds like an excuse. After all, we are talking about football, about inclusion, about giving women the same visibility men already have. We are talking about the opportunity to inspire girls who look at the pitch and want to dream of claret and blue. Looking at rivals, the contrast is clear. Arsenal frequently host women's team matches at the Emirates, always with good crowds and media coverage. Chelsea do the same at Stamford Bridge in higher profile matches. These clubs have understood that it's not just about an immediate revenue, but about long-term investment. The more people get in touch with women's football, the larger the future audience will be. The larger the fan base, the greater the respect. And yes, the greater the revenue down the line. West Ham must keep up with this movement or risk falling behind. And it's not that the fans don't support it. When the women's team played at the London Stadium, the crowd responded. It wasn't a sellout, of course, but a considerable part of the stadium filled up with celebration noise and a family atmosphere. It wasn't just a match, it was a celebration. Why repeat that only once in 10 years? Why deny the fans the chance to experience such moments more often? The answer, unfortunately, lies in the pen and the coffers of those who manage the arena. And that's why the matter is likely to end up in court. And if history is any guide, West Ham have a good chance of winning once again. Meanwhile, the calendar goes on. The under-21 team, for instance, also face similar limitations. Decisive matches, like youth tournament finals, often cannot be played at the London Stadium due to contractual issues. When they could be showcases for young talent, they end up hidden on secondary pitches. The same applies to charity matches or testimonials. How many legends would have deserved a farewell worthy of 6,000 voices but never had that chance because of the 18,000 per game cost? At other clubs, this happens naturally. At West Ham, it becomes a calculated luxury. This also weighs on the fans emotionally. The relationship with the London Stadium has never been simple. Many still miss Upton Park, the smell of beer in the air, the tight houses around it, the neighborhood feeling. The new stadium is grand modern but distant from that intimacy. If at least it were ours, maybe the adaptation would have been easier. But the constant feeling of having to ask permission of fighting in court to use their own home keeps a wound open. It's like living in rented property you yourself helped build. And while we discuss this Tottenham prepare to visit us, rivalry doesn't even cover it. The atmosphere of this clash is always like a final, a matter of pride. It doesn't matter if form is good or bad, if the table smiles or not. When it's against Spurs, the match takes on another dimension. And tomorrow won't be different. The stands will pulse, will sing, will push. And for 90 minutes, all this legal talk will be suspended. But it can't be denied what happens off the pitch also has influence. West Ham needs stability, need a home that is truly theirs, need conditions to grow on all fronts, men's, women's, academy, community, because in the end, we are more than a team. We are an institution carrying history, identity, and future. The future, in fact, is already knocking at the door. Women's football is expanding across the world, and England is one of the main stages. The Women's Euro in 2022 was a resounding success with record crowds and audiences. The final at Wembley showed the power of the women's game to draw massive crowds. West Ham have the chance to position themselves as a protagonist in this movement to show that they value their athletes and supporters equally. But to do that, they need to overcome the barriers currently standing in their own backyard. They need to make the London Stadium a stage for all the teams that wear claret and blue. And perhaps this is the central point of the whole discussion. It's not just about money contracts or bureaucracy. It's about identity. West Ham are not just a football club. They are a symbol of a community, of a way of living the sport. When the team step onto the pitch, the fans are not just watching 11 players chasing a ball. They are seeing their own history reflected, the struggle of the London worker, the tradition of generations united around claret and blue. And if that feeling doesn't echo in all areas, from the men's team to the women's, from the academy to community events, something is lost along the way. Women's football in particular is the chance to show the world that West Ham are not afraid to evolve. The girls who wear the shirt with pride deserve the stage, deserve to feel the roar of the crowd, deserve to see the fans cheering for them too in the biggest stadium. It's not only a matter of gender equality, but of vision for the future. Every girl who watches a game at the London Stadium and imagines herself out there is an investment that comes back as support, passion, and reinforced identity. And every time the board, the stadium, administrators, or whoever else puts up barriers, they are in practice diminishing the greatness of the club. Of course there are financial issues. Of course it cannot be ignored that maintaining an arena like the London Stadium comes with very high costs. But it is also clear that West Ham have already proved capable of filling stands, mobilizing crowds, turning a game into a spectacle. And if we are to talk about subsidies, how many public events, how many concerts, how many matches of other sports also count on support from London taxpayers? Why should women's football alone be treated as such an expensive, inaccessible extra? The supporters notice this inconsistency. They're not naive. They know that if there were political will, we would already have seen more women's matches at the stadium. They know that if there were real interest in valuing the women's game, we wouldn't be talking about a single official match in 10 years. And this perception corrodes. It corrodes because it feels like we are always a step behind, always fighting for something that should be natural. Arsenal don't need to explain themselves when they take the women to the Emirates. Chelsea don't face a saga every time they put the women's team at Stamford Bridge. Why must West Ham, who boast one of the most passionate fan bases in England, live through legal battles just to achieve the basics? And here comes a detail that cannot be forgotten: the academy. How many boys, how many future Nobles, future Coles, future Rices could have lived decisive matches at the London Stadium and felt from early on the energy of 6,000 people? How many young talents might have accelerated their maturity if they had already experienced the big stage in important games? The stadium should also be a school, a place of transition between dream and reality. But again, the contract and the fees restrict this possibility. And what could be a celebration becomes just another number in Excel. That is why the discussion about ownership will never go away. Until we are owners of our home, we will live at the mercy of these decisions. There will always be a meeting, a signature, an authorization. There will always be someone saying yes or no based on figures, not feeling. But West Ham are bigger than that. Bigger because they were born of the people, grew with the people, and continue to reflect that popular passion. And sooner or later, it will be inevitable that the club take the reins of their destiny, including with regard to the stadium. Meanwhile, we go on living between the pitch and the courtroom. But tomorrow, when the ball rolls against Tottenham, none of this will matter. The stadium will shake, the supporters will sing, and every challenge will carry the weight of our history. Because in the end, that's what drives us. We are a club born to fight on and off the pitch. We are a club that doesn't bow down, that doesn't settle, that turns obstacles into fuel. And if today we fight for women to have space at the London Stadium, it's because we believe the future must be fairer, wider, and stronger. West Ham are not just 11 players on the pitch. They are the stands that sing. They are the girl who dreams of wearing the shirt. They are the academy boy taking his first steps towards the first team. They are the veteran who remembers afternoons at Upton Park. They are the worker who comes home exhausted but finds the strength to cheer the team on with his voice. They are every detail that builds an identity that is not sold, not bought, and not negotiable. And that is why no matter how many contracts, fees, and disputes there are, the essence will never be defeated. Because West Ham are much more than a stadium. They're a nation of hearts beating in unison. and that no court can take away from us. So that's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, share, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more. Take care, and I'll see you next time.